I usually get home from work before Tina, so I had plenty of time to get ready. Of course, when I was ready, I had to kill some time until she got home. As soon as I heard the garage door open, I took one last look at myself in the bathroom mirror, straightened my tie, and headed down the stairs. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. Tina stood at the foot of the stairs and looked at me as I descended. She noticed the suit and tie and said, "I didn't know we were going somewhere tonight." "We are not." "If we're not going anywhere, why are you dressed up like that?" "Because I'm leaving." "What's going on here, Billy?" "I have a date. I'd love to chat, but I'm late. I'm not sure what time I'll be home, so don't wait for me." "Do you have a date? With whom?" By this time I was already at the front door, and opening it, I heard, "Just 1 damn minute, William. We have to—" And I went out and closed the door before I could hear the rest of what she said. Luckily, the extended cab Silverado pickup didn't fit in the garage, which reduced the time she had to get to me. Also, I think she was caught off guard and in shock from what was happening, which slowed her down a bit since I was already in the truck with the engine running when she came out the door screaming, "Damn it, Billy, get your ass back here!" I simply smiled as I pulled out of the driveway, turned left, and pointed the car toward the condominium where my date for the evening was staying. I suppose a little background is needed here. I met Tina Maria Clauson during my senior year at Metro University. My specialization was business management, and my course was devoted to the analysis of management decisions. The class was full, and the only empty seat was next to me. The teacher entered at the same time as the girl who headed to the only empty seat. I know that most people, at least the ones I knew, think that love at first sight is just a figure of speech and such a beast does not exist, but my first glance at the girl made me think, she is the one. I had not yet spoken a single word to her, and I was already wondering if I had enough money to buy her an engagement ring. She sat up, looked at me and said, "Good morning." Now, I thought, but before I could answer, Bivens called the class to order. I don't think I heard half of what he said during this class because the black-haired beauty sitting next to me had almost all of my attention. When the class ended, I walked right behind the girl, and from Bivens' roll call, I knew her name was Tina. Once in the corridor, I tapped her on the shoulder to get her attention, and when she turned to me, I said, "Hello, I'm Bill Dalton. I know this should be under more romantic circumstances, but I don't want to waste a lot of time. Will you marry me?" She laughed and said, "I don't know yet whether I will agree or not, but I might think about you, agree to a date if asked correctly." "Are you free tonight?" "It just so happens that, yes. How about having dinner with me tonight?" "I think I would like it." We learned that both of our classes ended at 11:45 and agreed to meet in the student cafeteria for lunch. Over lunch, I learned that the reason I had never seen her on campus before was because she was attending a local college and it was her first semester at Metro. We exchanged information, and I learned that she was an only child, and her parents both worked. She majored in accounting, and her goal was to become a certified public accountant, CPA. Her favorite color was blue, and she liked almost all music except the noise called rap. She refused to call it music. She learned that I was also an only child and was majoring in business management so that I would be ready to take over the family business when my father finally decided to retire. I didn't have a favorite color, but I agreed with her about the rap. We agreed that I would pick her up at 6, and we headed off to our afternoon classes. Our date went well, although she laughed at me a lot. Mostly, I guess, because she didn't take me seriously when I asked her finger size and what she wanted for an engagement ring. I asked her what she wanted from the wedding and whether we should wait until we both finished our studies to tie the knot. As I was driving her home, I told her that I was completely serious. "When I first saw you, I immediately knew that you were the one I should be with. Let's face it, fate, karma, or whoever was in charge made sure that you took the same class as me and that the only empty chair in the room was next to me. We are made for each other, and you need to accept that. You're being stupid. We barely know each other. That's why we need to keep meeting, so you can find out everything you need to know about me. I already told my parents that I met their future daughter-in-law, and they can't wait to meet you. How about having dinner with them next Friday? I don't think so. You're moving too fast for me. This is because I know that we are made for each other, and I want to continue our life together. Well, you can be sure, but I'm not sure. And until I know you a hell of a lot better, I won't agree to anything. You're cute, and I like your attitude about what you want, but I'm not one to rush into it. I'm going to see what else is out there before I make any big decisions. I wasn't happy to hear that, but I knew. I just absolutely knew that we were meant to be together, so I wasn't going to give up. Over the next 3 months, probably every third time I asked Tina out, she would apologize, but she already had a date that day or evening. As the Christmas holidays approached, I decided to leave everything about Tina until the new year. I didn't lose interest. It was more like a self-preservation instinct. I knew Tina dated other guys, but I never saw her with another guy, and I'm damn sure I didn't want that. I thought that if I asked her to go to Joe's party with me and she said she already had a date that evening, I might go to the party, but she would avoid it, knowing that I was there. Was this an example of strange thinking? Hell no, that was a piece of stupid thinking. Like she's not going to the party anyway. College student with a 3.78 GPA. And was I that stupid? My fraternity was having a party and I asked Tina to go with me, but she told me she already had a date that night. I went without a date, and 40 minutes after the party started, Tina arrived with Jake Cohorn. It was bad enough to see her on the arm of someone else, but Jake Cohorn? You couldn't find a more obnoxious asshole if you searched the world. I couldn't stand it. I had to leave 5 minutes after they got there. I saw the way Tina looked at me when I left. I decided to just skip all the holiday parties for the rest of the year. This was not meant to be. My Uncle Paul and Aunt Peggy came to visit me, and my cousin Rachel was with them. I was talked into taking Rachel to a party at my college dorm. I did not want to. I really didn't want to. But how can you resist when your mom and dad and your aunt and uncle are pushing you? On the way to the party, Rachel asked me why I was so reluctant. Are you ashamed to be seen with me? Dear God, no. You're really hot and you know it. Then I told her what was wrong. So, if she is there, point her out to me. She doesn't know that I'm your cousin, so I'll hang on to you and see if we can't make her jealous. I think she won't care at all. It won't hurt to try. Can't you guess? Not only was Tina at the party, but she looked right at us when we walked into the room. Rachel heard my sharp intake of breath and knew it. Where is she? Directly ahead, against the wall in a blue dress. Rachel looked at me, smiled brightly, and squeezed my hand tightly. Ignoring Tina, I introduced Rachel to my fraternity mates and their girls. About 20 minutes after we arrived, Tina came up to us and said, "Hello, Bill. Introduce me to your friend." I introduced them to each other, and then Tina stunned me when she asked Rachel, "Are you trying to steal my man?" Rachel laughed and said, "If he were your man, darling, he would be here with you, not with me. Come on, honey, show me everything here." And she took us away from Tina. It was a fun party, and we had a good time. Rachel attracted a lot of attention. A few of my mates, knowing my feelings for Tina, asked me if I had anything with Rachel, and I told them no, and that she was just my date for the party. Basically, I gave them permission to ask her out. Before we left, I needed to go to the bathroom, and when I came out, I found Tina waiting for me. I meant it, you know. What did you mean? That you are my man. If you asked me, I would be at this party with you. I didn't ask you because the last 3 times I asked you out, you turned me down because you already had a date. I got tired of hearing no, so I stopped asking. Sorry, but I need to find my girlfriend, and I walked away from her. On the way home, Rachel said, "Your fraternity mates are a bunch of assholes with a knife behind their back." Why is that? Even though I was your girlfriend, they kept hitting on me. They're not assholes. They know how fixated I am on Tina, and they asked me if I had something with you, and when I said no, they asked me if I would mind if they tried their luck, and I told them to do it. I wish I knew this earlier. There are a couple that I would say yes to. I turned around and she asked me what I was doing. I'm bringing you back to the party to see if this couple is still there. Once there, I let her go and went down to the game room and played pool until she came and picked me up and said she was ready to go. One of the people she would say yes to was Ed Catrone, and they ended up getting married. The next morning, Tina called me and asked if I would meet her for lunch at the village pub. Curiosity made me say yes. She was already there and sitting in the booth when I arrived. I sat down opposite her, and before I could say a word, Tina said, "I know what I want for Christmas." "What?" "Wedding ring. You once asked me what my ring size was. I don't know, but when we leave here, we can go to Zale's and find out. I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but why such a sudden change? I've dated enough guys to compare, and you came out on top." "Seriously?" "That and the trick you pulled with your cousin made me realize the fact that I could lose you to someone else." "How did you know that she is my cousin?" "She told me." "Did she tell you?" "How did this happen?" "She noticed me throwing nervous glances in your direction and thought I was upset to see you there with her. So she came up to me and told me not to worry, that she was your cousin and not someone else." "Who's trying to steal my man?" "Just to be clear, I wasn't the one pulling the stunt, and I explained my reluctance to even go to the party because I might see her there with some of the guys, and how everyone was pushing me to take Rachel to the party. Be that as it may, it was effective." "Indeed, it was effective." 6 weeks after my graduation, we got married. Tina had another year before she graduated, and I wanted to wait until she finished her studies. But she didn't want to wait, she insisted, and I gave in. I wanted a simple civil ceremony, but our parents wouldn't hear of it, so we ended up having a full-blown wedding, and the next 7 years were some of the happiest of my life. Tina and I were still acting like we were still on our honeymoon, and then a snake got into our garden. His name was Darren Goodman. He transferred to Tina's office from the company's Cleveland office. He decided he wanted Tina and went after her. Maybe it was the so-called 7-year itch, but be that as it may, Tina accepted his advances. At first it was lunch together, then meeting after work for drinks. What Tina forgot was that Hal Thomas, one of my classmates, worked at the same place as her, and since she didn't seem to care whether her coworkers knew what she was doing or not, Hal was able to find out quite a lot about her actions. Hal called me and told me what Tina was doing. I asked him to keep me informed as much as possible. Until now, everyone agreed that things did not go beyond the stage of shaking hands and kissing. The lunches weren't long enough for anything to happen, and after a few drinks and dances while socializing with co-workers after work, they didn't leave together. When I added it all up and added the fact that she was never late home, I realized that Goodman had yet to get her into bed. That day, Hal called me. He heard them talking about a date on Saturday, and from what he heard, they were going to end the date in a hotel room. One of the things he heard from Tina was that she was going to come home and hit me with it. Tell me straight up that she was going to date another man. I told my dad that I needed to leave a little early to solve a personal problem. On the way, I stopped by the accounting office and asked Angela Harding for a favor. "What do you need, Billy baby?" "I need a date for dinner and dancing tonight." Wow. Mr. Virtuous decided to take a break from his wife. "Hold your horses." I explained the situation to Angie, and she was shocked that Tina would do something like that. I had no doubt that Angie would jump at the opportunity to go on a date with me. At the first company Christmas party I invited Tina to, I learned that Tina and Angie knew each other, and that there was bad blood between them. Knowing that I was going to make sure Tina heard everything about the date, Angie agreed. When I picked up Angie, I mentally kicked myself for not doing something differently. I should have waited until Tina cheated on me with Goodman, then I would have been justified, at least in my opinion, for revenge sex with Angie. I always knew she was a pretty girl, but in her little black dress and heels, she was super hot. She smiled and said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For the compliment your eyes just gave me." I'm not sure, but I think I blushed. I offered her my hand, and we headed to my truck. We had dinner at Duke's Steakhouse, and after eating, we went to the Alhambra to dance. I chose both of these places because Tina had good friends who worked there, and I was sure that one or more of them would call Tina before I got home. During the slow dance, Angie pressed herself against me and simply smiled, meeting my excitement. She was enjoying the hell out of it, knowing she was turning me on and that Tina would know about it. It was obvious to me that Angie intended to get me into bed before the night was over, not because of my masculine charms, but because she would no doubt tell Tina about it. And while Angie was sure she had caught me, I was just as sure she wouldn't. Did I want this to happen? Hell yes, but it was simply not my style to cheat on my wife. I walked her to the front door and thanked her for a great time. She grabbed my head and gave me one hell of a kiss and then invited me in. I think I shocked her when I said no. We both know what will happen if I do this, and this is not the night for that. I told you exactly what the deal was, and you agreed to help me make it happen. Don't think for a second that I don't want to come in, because we both know that I really do. Thank you for helping me. I kissed her on the cheek, turned it and walked back to my truck. I went to the Waffle House, drank coffee and read the newspaper until 4, and then went home. I got home at 4:20 in the morning and expected Tina to be asleep in bed when I got there. But she wasn't. She was awake, sitting on the living room couch, reading a book when I entered. I just smiled at her, walked past her and went upstairs to our bedroom. I took off my jacket and was hanging it on the hanger when Tina entered the room. I can smell her perfume on you. Who is she? I would guess that at least one of your friends has already called you and told you. 2, but they didn't know this bitch. Do you know her? Angela Harding. This pig? Did you throw your marriage in the trash because of this pig? Come on, Tina. There's no need to dramatize the situation so much. Tell me something. How did you feel when I walked out the door? Tell me, Tina. I really want to know. She just stared at me. The anger was clearly visible on her face, but somehow she controlled herself. Perhaps you asked yourself why I was dating another woman. I asked myself why you weren't enough for me. Ask yourself, what did you do wrong? What did you do that pushed me away from you? Finally, she got to the point where she couldn't hold it in any longer. How could you? 7 years. 7 of what I thought were damn good years, and you gave it all up to roll in the hay with that slut. I smiled at her and said, Continue. Now you're on a roll. What the hell is wrong with you, William? You treat it like it's some kind of joke. Well, I find some humor in this situation. Let me see if I understood everything correctly. You're angry that I went on a date with another woman. So angry, in fact, that you're considering divorce. Is this something like this? She shook her head, not believing my attitude. And one more question for you. What makes Angie a slut? Yeah? What else can you call a woman who dates a married man? This raises another question. What would you call a married woman who is dating a man who is not her husband? A slut. Unfaithful slut. Thank you for clearing this up for me. I wasn't quite sure what to call you. Are you saying that I'm a slut? I'm just calling it the way I see it. You're a fucking asshole. How dare you call me that? Hey, back off. I'm just calling you what you say you are. A married woman dating a man who is not her husband. You're a married woman, and you're dating Darren Goodman. Therefore, you are, in your own words, a slut. Her face turned pale, and I saw that, how much he knows, was written on her face. I smiled and said, Here's something for you to think about. Remember how you felt when I left here last night and replay it in your head until you see the other side? This is how you intended to make me feel when you went out with Goodman tonight. You know, the date that's supposed to end in a motel room. However, there is one thing that puzzles me. I can't seem to remember what I did that made you think I'd just stand there when you told me you were going out with another man. I can't, for the life of me, remember what I did that made you think I was weak enough to say, Yes, honey, have a good time. I think you knew me well enough to understand that when Goodman comes to pick you up, I'm going to beat the crap out of him. Of course, that won't happen now because you'll no doubt call him and tell him not to pick you up and that you'll meet him somewhere. Anyway, it's been a long night and I need to get some sleep. I left her standing there in shock and went to the guest bedroom and went to bed. I half expected her to follow me and want to talk, but she didn't. When I woke up and went downstairs, she was sleeping on the sofa. Why on the couch and not in our bedroom, I wasn't going to ask. I went to the kitchen and then quietly, so as not to wake her, made coffee. When I finished, I poured a cup, went out onto the patio, drank some coffee, and thought about what to do next. Divorce? Maybe, but it was a last resort. I really loved this stupid bitch, and I really didn't want to let her go. Love or not, if she'd already slept with Goodman, she'd be history. But from everything Hal had learned, it was clear that wasn't the case. What to do, what to do. In the end, I guessed that it would depend on Tina. If she didn't want to stay with me, there really wasn't anything I could do about it. If she had gone on a date with Goodman, she would have said goodbye to me. I'd been there for about 10 minutes when she came out with a cup of coffee in her hand and sat down opposite me. She took a sip and then said, "What would you like for dinner tonight?" "I don't really feel like cooking, so I'll probably go somewhere else." "No, I'm asking what you would like me to cook for dinner." "I thought you had a hot date today." "No more." I looked up from my coffee and she said, "This morning I heard a wake-up call. I woke up with the realization of the fact I was about to give up a damn good marriage with a great guy for an affair with a guy who couldn't hold a candle to my husband. In fact, my actions, no excuses. I let a lot of compliments and flattery go to my head. I received the same compliments and flattery from my husband, but at some point I decided that he was only doing it because he had to. It was in his job description. Coming from someone else, it was confirmation that I was still a desirable woman. Luckily for me, at least I hope so, all that ever happened was a few kisses and handshakes. Now, because of my stupidity, I intend to go the extra mile to convince my suspicious and doubting husband that I have pulled my head out of my ass. Well, I'm not going to say that you have an impossible task ahead of you, but I will say that you have a very difficult job ahead of you. Then I'd better get to work on it. Would you like to go back inside and work up an appetite before I take you to breakfast?" "I'd love to," I said, standing up to follow her into the house. I thought this was a good sign. Apparently, she really wanted to stay with me. In the end, we can just try to do it. Wish me good luck. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.